So Chinese smartphone manufacturer Realme is fast establishing itself as one of the budget champions here in the UK. The Realme 6 series smartphones absolutely blew me away with its excellent value for money, and now we've got the fresh and new Realme 7, which boasts upgraded camera tech and updated specs across the board, so hopefully it'll be another brilliant budget blower. Going to take you on a full unboxing tour of the hardware and the software right now ahead of my in-depth Realme 7 review, and for more on the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers. So at the time I'm shooting this unboxing, I don't actually know the official UK pricing just yet because the phone hasn't actually launched in this country yet, but it should come in at around the sort of £200 mark. And I'll definitely update the video description when I know that info. Oh, so let's have a shifty inside the box, see what you actually get. So you got the actual Realme 7 itself, of course, the obligatory condom case to keep the Realme 7 protected, a highly exciting Type-C USB cable, and you've got your 30-watt dart charge adapter as well. Sadly, there's no Super VOOC support as there is on the Pro model. And of course your porky pin device to actually get your SIM in the little bleeder as well. So there you go, that's a thrilling look inside the box, and now the Realme 7 itself. And I'll tell you what, this thing has got a proper heft to it as well. It's almost 200 grams, so it's definitely right up there as far as budget phones go. And that's despite the fact that the back and the edges are just constructed from plastic, so the same as the Pro model, but you still do get that gorgeous mirror finish here on the back end of the Realme 7. As you can see there, the back end just splits for this very funky lighting effect. And you can pick up the Realme 7 in two different hues. You've got this mist white version, otherwise mist blue as well if you fancy something a bit more vibrant. So far I'm quite liking that, and I like the fact that it's a matte finish as well, so hopefully it won't scuff up, get all greasy and everything over time as well. And it's a nice soft touch finish as well, feels really nice against the skin. Of course, being plastic, it is liable to scratch up, so you've got that condom cover bundled in the box if you want to slap that on for a bit of extra protection. But while I'm reviewing the Realme 7, I'll leave that off just to see how hardy it really is. And around front you've got Gorilla Glass protecting that display. You've also got a pre-installed screen protector, so no worries there. And the good old edge-mounted fingerprint sensor has made a massive return in 2020. Very welcome indeed. So let's just get this Realme 7 powered up. Let's have a gander at the old SIM tray as well, because it should be a dual SIM device with also a separate slot for the micro SD memory card. And yeah, there we go. So you can quickly and easily expand the 128 gigs of onboard storage. Alright, so the Realme 7 is all set up and ready for action. Now first off, that edge-mounted fingerprint sensor seems just as fast and reliable as you usually get. As you can see there, just lightly tap your finger to the scanner and boom, you are in. Alternatively, you do have a face unlock option as well. As you can see, you can set it to only unlock when your eyes are open, and like that fingerprint sensor, seems nice and swift and responsive. You got full raise to wake support, so you don't even need to touch that power button. Literally just pick up your phone, scans for your mug, boom, straight in. Now the face unlock support is part of the Realme UI launch, which sits on top of Android 10. You get a whole buttload of bonus features chucked here on top of Android. So for instance, go into convenience tools, you can play around with all kinds of different gestures. Mobile gamers are well served by the game space feature. You got the app cloner, all kinds of privacy tools, loads of great stuff on there. But unfortunately, the settings menu is an absolute friggin' abomination, quite frankly. Just so full and so cluttered. Quite often I make use of the search bar to actually find the features that I'm looking for, because, you know, otherwise you'll basically waste half your life trying to find stuff. We've got all those Android features we know and love, like the dark mode. You've got your swipe navigation, and you do also have a dedicated one-handed mode here on the Realme 7 as well, which allows you to just shrink down the screen basically. But I have found that here on the Realme 7 it's a bit more awkward to actually call up compared with the likes of the Realme 7 Pro. It doesn't really seem to want to do it very much. But if you do eventually manage to get it activated, then as you can see, it just shrinks down everything and makes it a lot easier to handle with just the one mitt. Not that the Realme 7 is particularly a behemoth smartphone or anything. It's a 6.5 inches, so it's actually fairly average for a 2020 handset. So what you've got here, similar to the Realme 6, is a 6.5 inch IPS panel. It's a full HD plus resolution screen, 2400 by 1080 pixels, so nice crisp visuals even though it is a 6.5 inch beast. Seems to be bright enough on that top level to counter any sort of glare when you're using the phone outdoors as well, which is always good. Although if you are watching something a bit more moody, like a Marvel movie or show, then you're probably going to struggle to see what's going on. And yes, as usual, you do have a selfie camera orifice shunted away in the corner there. It's quite dinky, but it will intrude on the action when you go full screen for your movies or your games or whatever. But there is an option in the settings to block it out with the black bar if you don't want it. The colours look nice and natural, but you can play around with the likes of the colour temperature here in the display settings as well. And the good news is that just like the Realme 6 before it, you do have a 90Hz refresh rate option. Otherwise, you can just have the Realme 7 auto select between 60 and 90Hz depending on what you're up to at the time. On the the audio side of things, you don't have a stereo speaker setup like you do on the Realme 7 Pro, just a mono speaker setup, unfortunately downwards firing effort like usual. But let's test it out, see how it is on that top volume.
It's literally just me in this room banging on the camera. I could fanny around trying to add all kinds of wanky special effects and stuff like that, but frankly I can't be bothered. I'll leave that to the rest of them.
So it sounds a little bit tinny on that top volume, and of course because it's firing away from your face, you don't get that sort of full-bodied effect that you do with the Realme 7 Pro. But certainly nice and loud on that top volume, so you should hopefully be able to hear what's going on, even in quite a noisy environment. And yes, praise the baby Jesus, because like most budget-friendly smartphones, you do have a headphone jack housed down below as well. So that's on top of the Bluetooth 5.0 connectivity as well. And if you go into the sound settings, you can see you've got real sound technology, which allows you to mess around with an equalizer if you're actually hooked up to headphones. Now what you've got running the show here is one of Mediatek's chipsets, specifically the Helio G95. It's a new version of the Helio G90 series from them, and so far Touchwood seems to be running the show absolutely fine, absolutely loading up nice and nipply. And I did a good bit of Geekbench action earlier as well, and as you can see, a very respectable score for a budget smartphone there. 514 on the single core, 1640 on the multi-core. Of course, that's all very much helped by the fact that I've got 8 gigs of RAM stuffed inside this model as well. You can get it with just 6 gigs though in the standard base model. So that should hopefully do the job for your PubGs, your Call of Duties and all that. And of course, as I briefly mentioned earlier, you do have that game space feature as well, which just allows you to boost the performance for your gaming needs, basically dedicates all the resources to that game. And you got the likes of the notifications blocking and everything too. But I'll be fully testing out the Call of Duties and all that for my in-depth Realme 7 review. And last up, before we dive on into the camera tech, let's just take a look at the battery action on here. And what you get is a 5000 milliamp cell stuffed in there. So it's actually a fairly standard battery size for a lot of budget smartphones, like so the Poco X3, a lot of the Motorola smartphones, they have a 5000 milliamp cell in there. So it should keep you going all day easily, even with lots and lots of use. And those Mediatek Helio chipsets tend to be quite power efficient, so hopefully you won't have to make use of the old power saver modes here on the Realme 7. And Realme isn't f***ing around when it comes to recharging the Realme 7 either. You've got support for 30 watt dart charge on here, which is just as swift as quite a lot of flagship phones out there. It means you'll probably get around 55% charge with half an hour, so Realme reckons, and that sounds about right. So overall, some very impressive specs packed inside of the Realme 7 here for a budget-friendly asking price. And let's finish up with a look at that quad lens rear camera. Now, I believe that the Realme 7 that launched in India rocked the exact same quad lens rear hardware as the Realme 7 Pro, so a 64 megapixel primary lens. Unfortunately, here in the UK, that has been pared down, so now you get a 48 megapixel primary lens. But that is once again backed here on the Realme 7 by an ultra-wide angle lens, and then you've also got a macro lens and a mono lens as well. Basically, just a couple of completely pointless lenses that they chuck on there, so then they can say they've got a quad lens camera. I'll list the exact camera hardware packed into the Realme 7 down in the video description below if you're interested, and I'll be doing a full review of the photo and video quality in my in-depth Realme 7 review. But now, for anyone who's interested, I'll just do a bit of a tour of the camera UI, and if you've used a Realme smartphone in the past, you'll know basically exactly what you get here. So you got on full-on auto mode when you first load up the camera. You've got access to your boost color thing, a chroma boost as it's known, which can just sort of highlight some of those more vibrant images and really boost them. I prefer to just leave that off, to be honest, and get the more natural looking colors. You've also got your HDR mode, which is set to auto by default, just to help with those high contrast situations. And then if you want a wider view of the action, of course, you've got that ultra wide angle mode, which you can swap to like so. And you can also zoom in using the digital zoom, because of course there's no telephoto lens here on the Realme 7. You've got your usual filters and everything too, and then of course you've got a vast selection of random bonus modes as well, including of course a portrait mode, which just adds a bokeh style background effect. It shoots at 12 megapixel resolution by default using 4-in-1 pixel binning, but if you want to bump it all the way up to the 48 megapixel maximum resolution, that's nice and quick and easy, as you can see. If you actually know your way around a smartphone camera, you can get the Pro Expert mode on the go, and as you can see, you've got fast access to the ISO levels, the white balance, the focus, the shutter speed. And you can even shoot in RAW format as well if you want to edit your pics on the fly. And then if you flick your way all the way down to the bottom, you've got good old night mode, of course, which allows you to shoot lots of different snaps at different exposure levels, melds them all together, and then what you end up with is a more brighter balanced result compared with just standard auto. And last up for your video chops, I believe you can shoot at full 4K resolution. Let's just dive into the settings and check. Yes indeedy, so you got 30 or 60 frames per second for your full HD level, otherwise if you bump up to 4K then just good old 30 FPS. And last up, if we flip to that selfie snapper, it's a 16 megapixel effort, so a bit pared down compared with the Realme 7 Pro, which has a 32 megapixel effort, but should still hopefully capture you in full stunning glory. And that right there, that's how much I am loving the Realme 7. And that right there, in a nutshell, is the Realme 7 smartphone. So as I say, don't know the official UK pricing as I'm shooting this video because it's a good couple of weeks before it officially launches. But as soon as I know that information, I'll slap it down in the video description. So are you tempted by the Realme 7? Definitely looks like a solid all-round budget smartphone. Should suit most users down to the ground. Performance seems absolutely fine. Battery life should be stunning. And I'll definitely be testing out that camera tech and everything else as well for my in-depth review. So thank you very much for watching. Please do poke, subscribe, ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a lovely rest of the week. Cheers everyone. Love you.